President Trump is renewing his attacks on Congressman Elijah Cummings and one of the cities he represents. Speaking to reporters outside the White House, the president again blamed Cummings for the condition in the, quote, corrupt city of Baltimore. He also defended himself and said that he is not a racist.
No, Baltimore has been very badly mishandled for many years. As you know, Congressman Cummings has been there for a long time. He's had a very iron hand on it. It's a corrupt city, there's no question about it. All you have to do is look at the facts. The government has pumped in over the years billions and billions of dollars to no avail. I think that Representative Cummings should take his oversight committee and start doing oversight on Baltimore. He'd find out some real things. But people have called from Baltimore thanking me so much because all that money that's been spent over 20 years has been stolen and wasted by people like Elijah Cummings. I am the least racist person there is anywhere in the world. When con men, who I've known almost all my business life, because I had to deal with them, unfortunately, in New York, but I got along with him, Al Sharpton. Now, he's a racist. He's a racist.
This comes as a new poll finds more than half of all U.S. voters say the president is racist. White voters are split, though, with 46% saying that he's racist and 50% saying he's not. And while 80% of black voters and 55% of Hispanic voters think he is. I want to bring in Zeke Miller and Molly Hooper. Zeke is a CBSN political contributor, and Molly, a White House reporter for the, Zeke is for the Associated Press White House reporter, and Molly is a CBSN political contributor. Almost got you guys to switch jobs live on television. Didn't mean to do that. Zeke, I want to start with you, though. A Washington Post op-ed by Eugene Robbins, he writes this, that Trump's escalation of racism means one thing. He's worried about re-election. Do you get that feeling from the White House, Zeke?
Absolutely. I mean, this has been very clear over the last several weeks and months. If you look at the president, you talk to the people around him, people at his campaign, this is the president himself believing that the path to his re-election victory next year is by division, not addition. He's not trying to bring the country together, trying to win over people who don't agree with him right now. He's trying to turn out every person who already agrees with him and make sure that they go to the polls and they're enthusiastic about doing so next November. That's essentially the core of his strategy, and that's why we're going to see him make similar attacks like this, like we've seen, like we saw against the 4 congresswomen of color a couple of weeks ago, like we saw against Congressman Cummings over the weekend. And talking to people around him, this will be the strategy going forward over the next 15 months or so.
Molly, what is this really about? I mean, we keep seeing this racism bell being rung over and over and over again. What's he really accomplishing, and what are folks on the Hill saying?
Well, I wish I could tell you. I wish I had a crystal ball to get into that head of Donald Trump's, but unfortunately I don't. What I do know is that this is reminiscent of tweets of the past. When I would talk to members on Capitol Hill and ask them what they think of it, a lot of eye-rolling by Republicans and wishing that the president hadn't gone this far or in this direction. What is positive, I guess, the best thing that you could say for Republicans at this point is that the House is out on recess. So you'll probably not see too many Republicans weighing in on this matter, with the exception of Mark Meadows.
Yes, Mark Meadows did weigh in. He released this statement. I want to read it to you. It says, I am friends with both men, President Trump and Chairman Cummings. I know both men well. Neither man is a racist, period. It's like Republicans... We're seeing these Republicans who are distancing themselves from the attack, but not really going there fully.
Well, and again, that's something you'll find. What I found very interesting when President Trump assumed the office was this desire not to get in the president's way on the part of Republicans. And they were hearing from their voters back home in the districts that Donald Trump was doing the right thing for the economy and that there was a lot of popularity in these Republican districts for the president. And if you have to get elected every 2 years, you don't want to get on the wrong side of your voters. And so there has been, some sort of angst when it comes to taking on the president on matters like this, which is, again, why you're probably not going to see too many Republicans weigh in on this. Mark Meadows is an exception. I believe it was last month there was a legislative skirmish on in a committee hearing that Elijah Cummings was chairing, in which Mark Meadows took offense at something Rashida Tlaib said, and Mark Meadows said, "Are you accusing me of being a racist?" Elijah Cummings jumped in to Mark Meadows' defense and said, we are friends. This man's not a racist. So even though it took Mark Meadows a few days to actually issue this statement, which is a criticism he's fielding from other Democrats. The fact that he actually did weigh in and defend Elijah Cummings against these charges, keep in mind, he's a very close ally of the president, and I know, having talked to Mark Meadows in the past, he doesn't like getting those nasty tweets directed his way.
You know, Zeke, I want to ask you, Congressman John Ratcliffe is in the running. We're hearing about getting the nomination for the Director of National Intelligence. Do you have a sense from the White House as to why they chose him?
Well, it's clear he's been somebody who's been on the president's radar for some time, but what really sealed the deal for the president was his aggressive questioning of Special Counsel Robert Mueller a week ago in that hearing of the House Judiciary Committee, where Ratcliffe really tried to question the underpinnings of his report and the conclusions he was making about Russia. And that's really been one of the president's aims, and something that if you look at what the previous Director of National Intelligence, Dan Coats, was, or the outgoing Director of National Intelligence, Dan Coats, was unwilling to do, essentially, was to politicize the intelligence community, politicize the investigations of the intelligence community's work on the 2016 campaign and Russian interference. That's something the president has tried to do. He has the Attorney General, who is his hand-picked loyalist, Bill Barr, who is launching a similar investigation right now. And that department had found some resistance within the intelligence communities because Dan Coats was not going to allow his agencies that report to him in that post-9/11 structure to be politicized. Now the president is about to put in an ally who has demonstrated he's willing to make those sorts of moves, and that's one of the reasons why he's running to so much resistance on Capitol Hill, because Ratcliffe is going to have a very tall hill to climb in terms of convincing fellow Republicans even that he is not there in those sensitive national security jobs trying to carry water for the president. That's going to be a severe challenge to him. We've already seen some statements from Republican lawmakers who would have to do that for him and get him to vote, and they're not there yet.
You know, I want to ask you about this, Molly. You know, what folks on the Hill are saying, Republicans are saying, and do you think he gets this through? You know, Sue Gordon, who was sort of the deputy, everyone expected at least temporarily would be elevated. This is a woman who spent 25 years in the intelligence world. And to Zeke's point about this position not being partisan, I mean, how do folks on the Hill, particularly folks who understand this position very well, what are they saying?
Well, there is a little concern and consternation among the Republicans in the Senate, and usually when a senator is appointed to be a cabinet level position, there isn't as much pushback because you're being confirmed by your colleagues, essentially. House members don't get that luxury, and we can see that with Dan Marino, who was appointed at the beginning of the Trump administration, former member of the House, to be the drug czar. Legislation, a 60 Minutes report came out about his role in essentially weakening drug laws having to do with opioids, and his nomination was scuttled. It was pulled. And so Ratcliffe has to convince 51 Republicans or 50 Republicans. Mike Pence could put him over the edge, but it's unclear that he has that right now. And his first line, you know, the first barrier that he needs to really get through is that Intelligence Committee. And not all of the members on the Senate Intelligence Committee know John Ratcliffe, but they know what they saw last week at the Mueller hearing.
Yeah, he was definitely one of the ones who stood out. Zeke, I want to ask you about China. I know we don't always get a lot of time to talk about China trade, but I want to bring it up. The president mentioned it today. He said that the trade talks are going well, but expressed some doubt on reaching a deal. Here's what he said.
So the talks are moving very well with China, but they were often with China, but China always makes a new deal at the end, or seems to. China is dying to make a deal with me, but whether or not I'll do it, it's up to me. It's not up to them. Well, I think China is willing to give up a lot, but that doesn't mean I'm willing to accept it. I think if China had their wish, they'd wait till after the election. They'll pray that Trump loses, and then they'll make a deal with a stiff, somebody that doesn't know what they're doing, like Obama and Biden, like all of the presidents before, because what they've done is they've just picked our pockets as a nation. That's not happening with Trump.
Picked our pockets as a nation. Why criticize China as these talks are getting started? What are you hearing from the White House, Zeke?
Well, there are really two different messages there. The president sort of within moments directing a message to China, which is they really want to make a deal and he's going to take his time and figure that out. And then there's one aimed at the domestic audience, which is where he loops in saying that our country has been taken advantage of by China for decades, by other failed American leaders, and he's the only one